My name is Ragen Chastain, and I'm a professional speaker, writer, parody song enthusiast, multi-certified fitness professional, and a fat athlete. And I've been talking for about the past 10 years about fat liberation, health at every size, and weight inclusion and weight stigma within healthcare and fitness. I get to talk to audiences from general audiences to healthcare practitioners to fitness pros. And so for this, I thought it would be fun to talk about something that touches on all of those groups, which is weight inclusion within sports and fitness. And so as I pull up my slides, I want to say for the first, but certainly not the last time, that nobody's obligated to participate in fitness and that participating in fitness, it doesn't make us better than people who don't participate. So what my work here is about is that everybody who wants to participate should feel welcome. And so, yeah, this is Weight Inclusive Fitness and Sport. I'm Ragen Chastain. That's my website. Here we go. So, quick bit about my story. So, I was always kind of a bigger kid, but I was also a pretty successful athlete. And so, I didn't get as much body shaming as I think I might have otherwise. But between high school and college, a friend's mom suggested to me that I really probably wanted to lose weight before I went to college. And that started a downward spiral into diet culture and disordered eating that ultimately ended up with an eating disorder and years lost to trying to manipulate my body size. And it really broke my relationships with my body and with food, and especially with movement. And I devolved to the point where the only thing I was trying to use movement for was to manipulate my body size. And so I had these lists of things that I wanted to do for fun once I got thin. And after pulling myself up out of diet culture, thanks to a pretty thorough literature review of the research around dieting and weight loss and the success or lack thereof, I decided that instead of waiting for a thin body to show up, I was just going to take my fat body out for a spin and kind of see what it could do. And so I did end up getting to dance, and in fact, competed in ballroom dance and have 3 national championships. I got the splits I wanted. I got to do Pilates, which I always wanted to do. And I did some things I didn't expect, like completed a couple marathons and had the Guinness World Record for heaviest woman to complete a marathon and participated in triathlon. And so I'm explaining this because one of the things that was really important to me was that while I was doing these things that I wanted to do and enjoyed, that I use any power and privilege that I have to make these spaces accessible and welcoming for other people as well, including people who have marginalizations outside of mine. And so again, nobody is obligated to participate in fitness, but everybody should be welcome. And participating doesn't make us better than people who do participate. Fitness is not a moral issue. The truth is, fat phobia in sports and fitness keeps people from starting and causes people to stop participating. It's certainly not the only thing. Racism, transphobia, homophobia, ageism, ableism, and more also stop people from starting and participating. And fat people who also hold other marginalized identities, as well as the fattest people, face the most oppression in these ways. So a quick word about language. I use the word fat. I use it a lot. I use it because it's a perfectly good adjective that people have been allowed to heap negative beliefs on, and I kind of want my adjective back. It's a reclaiming term for me. It's a way to tell my bullies that they just can't have my lunch money anymore. And I like it because it doesn't pathologize or medicalize my body the way the terms that obese and overweight do. And these are terms that were literally invented to pathologize fat bodies, and they have deeply racist origins. And I definitely recommend Sabrina String's Fearing the Black Body and Deshaun Harrison's Belly of the Beast to learn more about this. Incredibly important to understand. So that doesn't work for everyone. So I also use terms like higher weight, heavier people, people of size. You'll hear plus size from folks as well. That's a pretty gendered term, but that it sometimes works. So let's talk really quickly about health and fitness. First of all, these are really amorphous concepts. And we have this idea in our culture that you can sort of like throw a dart and hit health or fitness, but that's not true at all. They look very different for different people. Just for one example, someone who's born with a chronic condition versus someone who's diagnosed with that chronic condition later in life versus someone who doesn't have a chronic condition. Health and fitness are going to look different for those people. And so it's important to understand these are really, kind of gooey concepts. They're not an obligation. And I know that for sure because I watch the Olympics and there's a sport called skeleton. In the sport of skeleton, you go 80 miles an hour down an ice chute on a sled face first. This does not prioritize the health, right? The NFL is actually organized around the idea of athletes risking their short and long-term health in the hopes that their team can score enough points to ultimately win a piece of jewelry. Now, people are allowed to do this with their bodies, but it doesn't prioritize health. And I mention that because this idea of prioritizing health is often used as a justification for fat phobia. And in fact, all that's doing is just adding healthism to fat phobia, which does not make it a better look. Health and fitness are not a barometer of worthiness. Again, that's just healthism. This is not a moral thing. I've done both. I can tell you for sure that Netflix marathon and completing a marathon are morally equivalent activities. They're not entirely within our control. They're, again, I can't say it enough, not about morality. And our choices around the priority and the path and the definitions are very personal. And they're not anybody else's business unless we ask them to make it their business. And other people's choices aren't our business unless they ask us to make them our business. So to speak quickly about privilege, so cultural privilege, this is about opportunities and treatment that we get and barriers and difficulties and obstacles that we don't face because we hold identities that are dominant and not marginalized. And so as a white, cisgendered, currently able-bodied, currently neurotypical person, I have a lot of privilege. I face oppression as a queer, fat woman. And so again, those with multiple marginalized identities and then within fat community, those who are the fattest people are facing the most oppression. And the thing about privilege that can make things difficult is that it means that we don't know what we don't know because we're not having those experiences. And it's our responsibility to know. So we've got to kind of go out and figure out what's happening outside of our own experience. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the talk. Fitness privilege is something I want to talk about in specific. It's happens a lot for people who are successful by our definitions in sort of early childhood education and physical education in school of successful. And so we know from research that people who are successful tend to get more attention, to be elevated. And so there are other people who might have been just as successful who won't get that attention. Same for people who have a stereotypical fitness look. And then there's access to participation, and that is wide ranging. It can be everything from having the money to participate, having a parent or a guardian who can take you around to the various places, to having uniforms that fit. There's a lot of ways that access to fitness is a privilege. And then the good fatty, bad fatty dichotomy. This is the idea you'll hear people say, well, there are good fat people who do, who whatever, eat right or exercise or whatever they think is appropriate to judge by. And I'm okay with those fat people, but like the fat people who don't do those things, like they're the bad fatties. And the good fatty, bad fatty dichotomy needs to die. And I want to help kill it, kill it, kill it. So I want to first be clear that you could divide literally any group of people up into those two groups, right? There are two kinds of blondes, there are two kinds of Rotarians. And so again, this just becomes a justification for fat phobia by using healthism. And so it's completely inappropriate. It's never true. There's no good fatties or bad fatties. Again, health and fitness, not moral issues. All right, so fat phobia often stems from toxic fitness culture. If you ever watched the movie Dodgeball, you may remember the line, "Here at Globo Gym, we're better than you, and we know it." That's toxic fitness culture in a nutshell. It creates insiders and outsiders, often through stereotypes and marginalizations. It harms those it includes as well as those it excludes, though does typically more harm to those it excludes, and encourages those it includes to increase exclusion and harm, to create a situation where they're deriving their self-esteem from being insiders and being better than the people who aren't insiders. And I got some examples. Sweat is just fat crying. This is not true. Like if somebody asks you on a biology test, no, right? This is just fat phobia. Fat doesn't need to cry. Fat doesn't need to be punished. The more you work out, the weaker his knees get. So many things wrong with this, right? The cis heteronormativity, the misogyny of the idea that women should work out for the male gaze. This whole thing is a mess. Also, it's simply not true. I work out a ton, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have gotten hired for this ad. So what they mean is the more you approximate a stereotype of beauty, the weaker we think his knees will get because we think he's bought into that stereotype of beauty as well, right? That's what that actually is saying. This one somebody sent to me and thought it was cool. They were like, oh, this is really great. And it said, why would you make fun of a fat person at the gym when you have visible evidence that they are actively trying to fix the problem? Yeah, that's not great. First of all, because the idea that fat people are a problem to be solved is wrong, right? The idea that you can assume somebody's goals at the gym is wrong. The idea that somebody else's body is your business, wrong. So I fixed it to, why would you make fun of a fat person? Mind your own business. Skinny girls look good in clothes, fit girls look good naked. Again, this idea, and the beauty and diet industry profits so much from making this a Sisyphean task. We'll never be good enough, right? But we're supposed to spend our time and energy and critically our money trying for our whole lives. And so no matter what, we're just never going to be good enough. Your workout is my warm up. Again, toxic fitness culture. So what, right? Unless somebody asks to compete with you about workouts and warm ups, it doesn't matter what someone else is doing. And this one, I could not hate more. Imagine the weight you are losing is going to the person you hate. Okay, first of all, we know that about 95% of intentional weight loss attempts result in weight regain. So the weight you're losing is probably coming back to you, right? Which creates an ironic and sad situation within the context of this meme. But the idea that you should wish fatness on a person you hate is super fat phobic and gross. So just no, all of this toxic fitness culture. So the exclusion that comes is this idea that, first of all, if you can't win, don't play. And because we're taught to assume from a very early age that fat people are not good at sports and fitness and can't win, it creates exclusion there. Stigma or oppression, dancer's body is an incredible example of this, right? Dancer's body, there's changes happening, but it is typically meant a very thin, cisgender, white, able body. And what this has done is simply excluded people who are incredible dancers from ever having a chance. It's gatekeeping based on a stereotype of beauty. And so if you want to dance, you have a dancer's body. And then there's the us versus them. I am an incredibly slow marathoner. And so people, I guess, thought I would feel bad about that. And so they would send me these things. Don't feel bad. You're lapping people on the couch. And I'm like, no, I'm really not. Like, people on the couch didn't ask to be part of this. I set my goals for distance and I meet them or I don't. But like, this is not about comparing myself to other people. And so we have this idea that we have to be better than someone. And that's actually toxic and not true at all. So the impact for those who are insiders, especially, but also outsiders: eating disorders, sports injuries, burnout, stereotyping and exclusion, fear of starting and disengagement. I talk to a lot of people who have had messy breakups with exercise. A lot of them stem from like terrible junior high school gym teachers, dodgeball, the president's physical fitness test, the pacer test, right? Not enough options. A lot of adults I know found out that they love yoga or weightlifting or aerial silks, but those things weren't offered to them in PE classes when they were in school. The treatment of people who didn't succeed by the standards of, junior high school gym class, or somebody lied about the likely outcome. Right? They told them, oh, if you participate in sports, it'll manipulate your body in a certain way. And we know that that's not actually true. But if that was the only result they were looking for, then, they had a messy breakup with exercise because it didn't work based on what they were looking for. And so that's another way that diet culture and fat phobia really mess up people's relationship with fitness. So how do we fix this? So the fixes are structural, and I talk about personal things that we can do to navigate a fat phobic world because I want fat people to have those skills. But I also want to be clear that we shouldn't have to develop those skills. This shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't even be here talking about this, right? And you cannot self-love, body love your way out of structural systemic oppression. And so changes ultimately need to be systemic. And I also teach skills to navigate the reality of what we're living in now. So we first have to look at all the options for participation. So some people participate because of achievement or competition, and that's fine. Some people participate in movement or fitness because of enjoyment, and that's also fine. But even within sort of fat liberation culture, often in health at every size culture, we talk a lot about joyful movement as if that's the only reason to participate. And for a lot of people, that can create a lot of pressure and also doesn't match with their experience. So there are people who use movement for physical health benefits or mental health benefits who don't necessarily enjoy it, but it helps them maybe feel better, manage a chronic condition, etc. And that's a totally valid reason to engage in movement. And it's also valid to say, I don't find this joyful, but I want to do it for whatever the benefits I'm getting are. So I'm just going to find the thing I hate the least and do it for the least amount of time that gives me the benefit I need, right? So that's also totally valid. So we have to really embrace the idea that people can participate on their own terms. If you're looking to repair your relationship with movement, there's lots of options, and you can try out by, like, first of all, finding role models. There are people out there, fat people doing all kinds of fun, cool movement things. Jeanette DePatty and I co-founded a Facebook community called Fit Fatties, which is for people of all sizes who are participating in movement at whatever level and in whatever way they want. And there are so many different ways. So you can find folks who are doing it who are at your size, and then you can kind of get tips and tricks and a better understanding sometimes. You can also try it at home. More and more fitness is going online, so you can try it out and see if you like it before you go to a class if you like. When it's safe to go to classes, free trials, Groupon can be really cool because it's less of a financial investment. And then Groupon can be very cool because a bunch of people will probably buy the Groupon. So you're probably not going to be the only beginner in the class. It'll be like a whole bunch of newbies at once, which can make it much more comfortable. Look for instructors who are informed in dealing with any oppressions that you face, chronic pain, illness, disability, etc. You can call ahead anonymously and see if they're fat friendly. And you can look at things like Join, which is an online platform that's free that has all different kinds of workouts that you can do from home. You get to choose your own adventures. So we talk about the pillars of fitness like strength, stamina, flexibility, and you can choose to work on one of those or many. You can choose different things at different times. You can choose whether you like really high intensity or more moderate or low intensity. You can choose to do competitive or structured workouts or not. You can choose to do stuff with groups or by yourself. You can choose goal setting or no goal setting, right? You can just swim until you feel like not swimming anymore. You don't have to count laps. You don't have to have goals. You don't have to swim more tomorrow than you did, today, etc. Or you can. It's all up to you. You can choose one activity or you can change it up. You can discover the joy of quitting, right? This is no longer you join the junior high school softball team, so you have to keep your commitment till the end of the season, right? You're allowed to quit whenever you want now. So you can try a class. You can quit 5 minutes in. You can quit after the first class. You can quit after, a few weeks or months and try something else. And you can decide whether you track or don't track your workouts, your progress, etc. And so this is about an exploration. So it's not about getting it right or wrong. It's about trying things and seeing what works. And if it works, if you like it, do more of that. If it doesn't work, if you don't like it, do something else. So if you are living with chronic pain, chronic illness, mental illness, or disability, you may need to be more flexible with your plans and goals, right? You might plan to do a 5K in 3 months, but if you end up having a depressive episode, a fibro flare, et cetera, then you might have to change that goal. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can, if you're struggling, it can help to think of it as you and your body dealing with the situation rather than you against your body. And I learned this, I injured my neck in 2013 and entered a period of chronic pain and limitations that lasted just until this past year. I had surgery and it's all gotten much better. But when it first started, I really struggled with the idea that like I was asking my body to do things and it wouldn't do them, or it was just in pain. And I had a lot of privilege up to that point in the way that my body and I related and in my ability. And so conceptualizing it as, okay, it's not me against my body, it's me and my body dealing with this thing that's happening was really helpful for me. So your mileage may vary, but that's what I got. Get advice from well-qualified health at every size practitioners and weight neutral practitioners. And if you're Googling, you can look for terms like adaptive sports, parasports, disabled sports, and get information there as well. So if you're an insider to fitness culture, be aware of the culture you're creating. Be inviting, but you can try something I like to call smile and shh. So understand that people may not want to be approached or talked to, especially new people. So smile, be inviting, be warm, but no need to say anything. Don't make assumptions. Fitness doesn't look a certain way. So when you see somebody, don't assume their fitness level, their goals, and avoid unsolicited advice. If you are going to interact with somebody, make sure you're asking questions, right? So if they seem to be really struggling with a piece of equipment in the gym, or they're not sure like how to put the volleyball net up, you can say, hey, do you want some help? And then respect their answer, whatever it is. Follow and learn from fat athletes. And so I've got a list here of some amazing people: Latoya Shante Snell, 300 pounds and running, which is Martinez Evans, Myrna Valerio, Meg Boggs, Jessica Jade, Yoga Fringish Yoga. These are incredible folks, and you can follow them on social media, learn about their experiences, especially if they have identities that you don't hold. And then again, Avoid using comparison to other people to feel better about yourself. You are intrinsically valuable and worthy, and you don't need to be better than anybody else to be that. You're already those things. So breaking down barriers. We talk about physical safety, and that's important, right? Especially from a weight inclusive perspective. Will this bench hold my weight? Do we have uniforms that will work for me, etc.? Is this physically safe? There's also psychological safety. And again, these things aren't fat people's responsibility to solve. They may become our problem, but they're never our fault. These are systemic changes that need to be made, and we can navigate them. But I always want to be clear, like we didn't cause these problems, and we shouldn't be responsible for solving them. So when we talk about psychological safety, can I go to a body of water in a bathing suit and know that I won't face any kind of body shaming or, negative looks or any kind of harassment, etc.? And then making things accessible and affordable and enjoyable, also really important. So dealing with fat phobia and toxic fitness culture. If you're somebody who's dealing with this, understand you have the right to engage with movement and fitness or not entirely on your own terms. You deserve to take up space. We can't stop people from trying to feel superior based on their fitness or size, but they can't make us care. And one of my personal mottos is show up fat and refuse to leave, right? I do not want to let trolls and haters and fat phobes limit what I do. And so that's my choice. I'm going to show up fat and I'm just going to not leave. But that's not the only choice, right? You may not want to deal with that, and that's absolutely fine. You may choose, I'm going to work out at home because I just don't need the hassle of fat phobia in my life. Totally fine, totally valid. However, we deal with the oppression that we get is a valid choice because the oppression shouldn't be happening. And again, not our fault, even if it becomes our problem. And then for athletes in oppressed groups, bullying, stigmatizing, harassing, and oppression, again, not your fault, even if they become your problem. And it's important to understand the difference there. The problem with bullying and stigma and oppression is the people who are doing it, and how you deal with it is always your choice. And you are not obligated to change yourself to please your bullies. So questions, comments, feel free to email me or message me online. I cannot wait for this conference. Thanks for being here, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.